The president recognizes the delegate at the pro microphone.
Skylar Smith, Mississippi delegate. I move to suspend the rules that deal with the disallowing floor nominations for the next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline.
The motion on the floor is to suspend the rules that deal with disallowing floor nominations for next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline set by the Elections Committee. Is there a second?
Okay. Parker Doe, delegate from Wyoming. I don't agree with the motion, but I think it should be heard.
Sure, Mr. Delegate from Wyoming. As I was advised by our parliamentarian, seconding a motion does not mean that you agree with the underlying motion. It just means that you agree that it should be considered. You may second the motion at this time if you wish.
Morgan Miller, delegate from Minnesota. I second the motion to suspend the rules for disallowing floor nominations for next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline.
Thank you. Having been moved and properly seconded, the current motion on the floor is to motion to suspend the rules that deal with disallowing floor nominations for next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline. We can now move to the discussion phase. Those that wish to speak to the motion kindly lined up behind the microphones. The red microphone is for those in favor of the motion, and the blue microphone is for those against it. I will alternate those for and against as our parliamentarian advises. Would the maker of the motion like to speak first?
Mr. President.
Yes, Madam Delegate from Mississippi. Proceed.
Skylar Smith, Mississippi delegate. You know, folks, I feel discriminated against.
Whoa, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
I heard that the Elections Committee chair purposely prevented me from running because my family is from Mississippi and the Elections Committee chair is from New York. New Yorkers are prejudiced against us Mississippians. Yes, I admit that while I was on vacation with my husband, that's why I didn't respond to the deadline. And yeah, I received emails from the Elections Committee reminding me as to the deadlines of the election chair, answered all my questions timely and respectfully. But still, the Elections Committee chair is prejudiced against me, and I demand my rights. The Elections Committee is filled up with a bunch of jerks and...
Whoa, Mr. Delegate from Mississippi, your comments are improper. I would ask that the delegate from Mississippi come to order. According to the Roberts Rules of Order, as advised by our parliamentarian, we may not question the motives of other members. I would further request that the delegate from Mississippi refrain from such unfounded generalities and assumptions as that harms not only the member to which you are referring, but could have been unintended consequences against the organization and its members. That being said, I'd like to exercise chair's privilege and invite the elections chair to explain the background to this rule so that our delegates may make a fully informed decision.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Elections Chair. Please proceed.
Although nominations from the floor are allowed by our governing documents and the protocol is discussed within Robert's Rules of Order, this rule has been a custom within the organization for some time. It is designed to encourage potential candidates to hand in their applications within a certain time frame. As per our government documents, we must verify certain things about each candidate, like if they are an active member and whether they pay their dues. We do not want opportunists, people joining today just to run tomorrow for a position to put on their resume. Such verification involves multiple members and multiple steps. As such, we need time to do it, and we have to remember that everyone has different academic schedules and law school comes first. We also want to get as much done as possible prior to the convention so that mistakes are not made. Additionally, it is a benefit to the organization to have candidates that have had the time to fully think it through. If they were ready to handle this kind of commitment in the past, it was thought that the floor-nominated candidates simply did not have that opportunity to think it through and just got caught up in seeing current board members making speeches and interacting with more famous or accomplished attorneys. We have had some people get so caught up in the moment that weeks later they resign from the position. Also, past boards have found that no one was submitting an early application when there's an option to run from the floor. So we have continuously had this rule in place to encourage early submissions. There will be ample opportunity for those that cannot or do not wish to be elected to the position to later be appointed to other positions by next year's board.
Thank you, Mr. Elections Chair. We will now hear from the first delegate at the blue microphone, as that member is against the motion. Yes, Mr. Delegate.
Taylor Hughes, delegate from New York. I am against this motion. Unless under extreme circumstances, we should keep the custom after all. It has been in existence for a reason, and it isn't fair to the other candidates that complied with the deadline. The deadline was reasonable, and the elections application not long. The elections committee sent out multiple email reminders to everyone in the organization. It is also not fair that the elections committee have to spend more time just for one person without good reason, like an extensive back-to-back exam schedule. Vacation is not a good reason. As a general member, I'd rather have board members move on to other things.
This matter will now proceed to a vote. The motion on the floor is to suspend the rules that deal with disallowing floor nominations for next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline. I need a 2/3 vote in favor of suspension for the motion to carry. Let's proceed to a placard vote. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules that deal with disallowing floor nominations for next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline, please signify such by raising your placards. 1. Okay, thank you. Please lower your placard. All opposed to the motion, please signify such by raising your placards high at this time. 1, 2. All right. Any abstentions? Well, the nays have it. The motion fails. We will not be suspending the rules involving disallowing floor nominations for next year's board if there are 4 or more candidates that submitted early applications by the deadline.